Welcome to Ibogaine Uncovered. I'm your host, Talia Eisenberg. Today, we sit down with friend and colleague Dr. Alejandro Junger. Born in Uruguay and trained as a cardiologist in New York City, and now triple board certified in internal medicine, cardiology, and functional medicine. Dr. Junger is the New York Times bestselling author of Clean Gut and Clean Eats. His clean program has inspired millions to rethink what true healing means. Dr. Junger recently spent time at Beond, where he not only experienced Ibogaine himself, but also connected deeply with our team and guests. We begin with the powerful intersection of his life's work and ours, exploring the vital link between the gut and the brain and how Ibogaine may influence that connection. In one of the most meaningful moments of our discussion, Dr. Junger opens up about his own recent battle with depression and how his Ibogaine journey here helped him move through it. When a doctor of his caliber shares his vulnerability, it reminds us that healing isn't just science, it's profoundly human. And no matter who we are, we all walk this path together. It's a pleasure to have you here, Dr. Alejandro. Thank you so much. You've been now at Beond for more than a week. You've experienced Ibogaine yourself, and you've seen clients going through the process. Your background is you really helped make popular the brain-gut connection and detox that people can do for inflammation and diseases in the body, as well as mental health challenges like depression and anxiety and how the gut affects that. So after being here for a week, how do you think Ibogaine interacts with the gut?
I am blown away. Thank you for having me. I've had an amazing experience, not only myself, but also with the other guests that come in and out. And I've witnessed some incredible transformations and coming back to life, as it were. So I'm like in awe of Beond, because I was already in awe of psychedelic therapies. I've explored with Ibogaine myself, and I've been recommending it for many, many years. I've taken people to other places, one of them which you know, Crossroads in Tijuana, which is, I think, is closed now with Martin Polanco, right? So I understand the value of it for people's healing journey. I understand the chemistry and biology and physiological aspect of it, but there's an added dimension that happens here at Beond that has to do with the way it's organized, the staff, soulful people that you have running everything from the kitchen to the cleaning to the doctors to the nurses. It is just unbelievable, and I'm so happy to have been here. I came to Beond because a few years ago, a friend, patient of mine, the Wolf of Wall Street, called me one night in the middle of the night. He was in a crisis, and he's spoken about this publicly, so I have no problem speaking about it. Otherwise
we would be confidential, of course.
Exactly.
But he's open about it, yes.
He's open about it. He's been on the news, and
he shares about his Ibogaine experience.
Right? So he called me on a moment of crisis, and I immediately detected that this would be an amazing solution for him. So I immediately called my guy in Tijuana, and he said, I didn't know that he had closed the place. So he said, I have an even better place that you can take him to.
Thank you, Martin. Martin's a great guy, by the way.
I love him. And so at that moment, he called, put Tom on the line, and we made plans for Jordan to come directly here.
Right. Jordan was struggling with Suboxone. He was on Suboxone for many, many years.
Yeah, he was given painkillers for a shoulder problem, surgeries I think he had in both shoulders.
And like many people, you can't get off of them.
Got addicted to the painkillers, and then they put him on Naboxone, I think. Suboxone, which is kind of like the new methadone.
Yeah.
But that also messed him up, right? And he was desperate to get out of it. So anyways, he came here, had a life-transforming experience, and was very impressed and speaks about it around the world. So when I realized that I could use it myself for my own healing journey, there was one only place that I wanted to come, which is here. And I contacted you guys, and Tom remembered
that connection from Jordan Belfort.
So he immediately picked up the phone and helped me a lot on the phone already. I was going through a very, very difficult time.
Yeah, share a little bit more about what was happening for you emotionally, if you don't mind being vulnerable for people. I think it's very beautiful when a doctor who, is in such a position of power and knowledge that you have shares personally about their own struggles. It makes you so human.
So 10 years ago, about exactly this time, I went through a very difficult divorce that affected me very negatively. There was a lot of really bad aspects to it, and I had fear of losing my children, who I love more than anything. I had a car accident in the middle of it. Court was very difficult, like it is for so many people, and around it there were also different betrayals from friends and people that I knew, and my business was in trouble. So when it rains, it pours, right?
Right, because you had a lot of success with Clean and your program, books, many
was at the high
best-selling
career. There was had 3 best-selling New York Times best-selling books.
You're working with celebrities,
working with everybody from heads of states to royal families to celebrities, and helping a lot of people that nobody knows about too, that couldn't even pay for it. I ended up paying myself for many people. Right?
You shared that with me yesterday. It's really beautiful how you help. You sort of the Robin Hood model. You help people that can afford, and then those that can't, you help for free. Thank you for that.
Not only for free, it cost me money, because I used to give them a lot of the products from the company. I used to just grab and put people on programs, and so it cost me a lot of money, but it was fine. My partners didn't like it very much.
Well, your partners were happy, but you were.
But yeah, that was a really hard time. But then I was in survival mode. I wanted to rescue my children from losing their father. I wanted to reestablish myself in their life, and I didn't want them to suffer the consequences. They were very little, and when there is bad energy between parents, kids cannot grow free. I know, because I suffered from that in my own family. Even though my parents' trouble was a 10th or a 100th of what I experienced, I know that it messed me up.
Right. So you were trying not to repeat the past, as many of us try to do as parents. So you put your kids first. It sounds like
100%. And I gave a lot of my dreams and advancement in my career for them. So, I wanted to take them out of Los Angeles and for them to study somewhere more wholesome. So they ended up in the countryside in England, in a Waldorf schools. So, but it was very difficult for me to be there, but I did it anyways. I faked it, being friends with their mother, because they say you fake it until you make it, and in that way I maintained
a sense of normalcy. So they should have a good childhood.
Kids grew up beautifully and with free minds, and they're really creative and connect.
Now they're 15, 18, right?
So now they're 13 and 15.
Uh-huh.
And a couple of years ago, I kind of cracked I stopped being in this warrior mode, and it just, everything hit me.
Wow.
At the same time. And that brought on, more than anything, incredible anger, mostly against myself, for some decisions that I took, for choices that I've made. And this anger, this lack of being able to accept the things that I've done and where I am and where I was threw me into a severe depression.
You were angry at yourself,
Yeah.
and that created depression. So you had experienced depression for the last few years prior to coming to Beond.
Well, I've had a roller coaster life. There were moments of incredible joy and creativity, and I love helping people. I love being a doctor. I love discovering things, but then there were moments, and I talk about this in my books, and the moments where I did experience depression were the moments in which I discovered new things that then helped thousands of people around the world.
Wow. Yeah. So you find solutions in the darkest when you're in the darkest place yourself. You try it on yourself. If it works, you bring it to many, which you did, which is part of your journey, with clean and living in New York City. And I read you grew up in Uruguay in this beautiful natural environment. Then you went to med school in New York City, or you were training in New York City as a doctor, and the toxic environment essentially led to a breakdown in your body, which helped you discover your own the clean program in the early 2000s and build, the detox program around inflammation, disease in the gut, and you basically brought that to the masses because it helped you heal yourself first.
Exactly.
Wow.
My book is translated to 30 languages, New York Times bestseller, and it's helped a lot. I still get, and this was in 2008, I still get messages from all over the world, people that whose lives are transformed just by reading the book and applying
doing the work daily. So fast forward many years later, now you have depression. You need to find a cure, right? So tell me, how did you come to Beond and discover, rediscover Ibogaine? Because you had done Ibogaine before. We could talk about that later. But
so for the last 3 years, I've been struggling, and the only thing that really saved me was spending time with my children and helping others. So I've been running retreats all over the world, and people's lives are really positively affected. But I could not adapt to living in England and being away from my environment, and so
I can only imagine helping you. You do these incredible retreats all over the world that you run. You help all these people. They have huge transformations. But then you go back to your room and you feel like you don't want to be on the planet. So that sort of, contrast that's very intense.
Well, on one hand, it's a balm for my heart to be able to help others. On the other hand, it makes me feel like I'm an imposter because I'm helping all these people, and then I go to my room and I'm looking where to hang myself from.
Wow. So tell me about the shift with Ibogaine. What happens here at Beond for you?
So about 10 years ago or 12 years ago, a patient of mine, a very high profile gentleman who had a few near death episodes from overdosing with a certain drug, came to me for help.
Mm-hmm.
And I took him because I've already been aware of Ibogaine, and I had recommended it to some people. I took him to Tijuana and
to Martin Polanco's clinic,
and he had a good experience. He did relapse, but eventually he got clean. Right. A couple of years later, another very high-profile patient asked me to help him with his addictions, and this man did not want to go to a clinic with other people. So what I did is I closed down the clinic, hired the whole team, rented a house somewhere else in Mexico, and I rented monitors and defibrillators and a couple of ambulances, and
Of course, you essentially built a clinic.
I built an Ibogaine clinic somewhere else
for this high-profile
man,
right? Who doesn't want other people to know.
And when we got there, I even brought a cardiologist from New York just to make sure, because I didn't have much experience with the Mexican cardiologist. Now I trust the Mexican cardiologists like your Eduardo, and more than my colleagues in.
Thank you for saying that.
No, I'm a hero. But at that time, I brought a good friend of mine from Los Angeles, just to supervise. But at the moment that we were going to start, my patient said to me, I'm not doing this alone.
It looks like the doctor's going to have to jump in himself and do the Ibogaine.
If you don't do it with me, I'm not doing it. I said, okay, fine. I mean, I had experience with ayahuasca.
So you took the Ibogaine yourself. You had prior psychedelic experience, but you went in with your client. That is incredible and so so beautiful.
I had experiences with ayahuasca, like beautiful experiences and transformational experiences with ayahuasca, with peyote, with San Pedro, Huachuma. I even tried LSD, psilocybin. I had experiences, DMT.
In a therapeutic or in a therapeutic context to help your mental health.
Only in a therapeutic context and in more like an exploratory context, because not all the times that I did it was I looking for a solution for a problem. As I told you, I've had phases in my life and maybe even more time where I was really
for creativity or personal growth, not just for times when you were down, which I think is what I'm seeing is the next wave of psychedelics. People at Beond are coming more and more for personal growth, creativity, how can I create a better future?
It's like ayahuasca has been done in the Amazon for thousands of years, and there's religions run around it and they take it as a sacrament, like Santo Daime, which is the people that I did it for the first time. Anyways, I'm very open-minded and a lover of these kind of experiences. So I said, no problem. So we both went and took the Ibogaine. And neither of us had a psychedelic experience. And I was at a very good time in my life. So I thought it didn't do anything for me. It did something for me. I've been a sugar addict since I was a little kid. And when I went back home from that experience, 3 months, I had no desire for sugar. So I completely stopped consuming sugar, right? Then I started again.
That's incredible. We see that here sometimes. Clients don't mean to, but they stop. We've had clients lose so much weight. It wasn't their goal, but they just don't want sugar anymore after. So you didn't have the memory recall, which is actually sometimes it happens in a small percentage of the population. They don't have the visions and all this, but they end up getting the benefits afterwards, the critical period, the insights or.
So I didn't have him. He didn't have him. He relapsed with this drug that he was using. And so we organized again a therapy session for him. And this time it was combined with Bufo, and it did have a very positive effect, and he did stop using, right?
So, interesting.
Yeah, so I gained a lot of respect, and
I think people relapse sometimes afterwards because they don't have the integration support. They aren't making the changes in their life, and you need good therapeutic coaching afterwards. You need somatic support. You need a whole program afterwards. Is just as important as the Ibogaine itself.
We did set a program for him, but this is a very powerful man who is very, he's like a rebel, and like
he didn't want to do it. Maybe he was too busy.
Yeah, he was.
Yeah, people really, I find, have to be ready and willing to do the work. It's not going to do the work for them. So the second time, though,
but in my mind, I thought that when I did it that first time, they gave us either old medicine or not the right dose.
You thought the medicine was bad,
either bad or not enough, or So I kind of put it in that category. And
then went on with your life because you were doing well.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, got it.
So this time I've been around the block, and I've had episodes of things, and I didn't want to go on antidepressants because I did in my first episode of depression. I went on antidepressants for 2-3 weeks, and it completely numbed me, and it took away my ability to be empathic or compassionate,
which as a doctor is so important.
Which is the only thing that,
and as a human,
that fuels my desire to, or gives me any ability to be a good doctor.
That was very interesting. I'm sorry for the audience. We're digressing, and then we'll come back. Maybe we both have a little bit of ADHD, but yesterday in the gratitude circle, there's a beautiful man here with his son, and he had mentioned that he didn't realize he was on Lexapro for 25 years as part of why he came here. He got off, and you had said what to him?
I told him what my experience was, because he mentioned that he went off of Lexapro just to be here, and he was unsure of being off of Lexapro. He said, my memory is not as good. And I said to him, listen, don't worry, the memory will come back. You just have to, your body has to get used to being off of it. And I'll tell you my experience. So I told him about the loss of my empathy, and it clicked for him. And he realized that for 25 years, he had been unempathic himself. And how now, since 10 days that he had been off of Lexapro, 2 weeks or whatever it is.
And the Ibogaine probably resets the gut related to...
Well, he hadn't done it yet, okay. Right? He's actually having his dose as we speak.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. But it something clicked for him, and he realized that he also had lost his empathy. And that was like an aha moment for him, you know? And like, I think at that moment I could see in his eyes, he made a decision that he wasn't going to go back on it. So anyways, you know, when I was looking for my solution, and the thing is that as I said before, when it rains, it pours. So I'm dealing with a lot of aspects, right? But the most pressing or the toughest part of it is that when you are suffering, you are unmotivated to fix anything, right? And the way I described it this morning in the gratitude circle is as if somebody was pressing on me, or there was an emptiness that hurt, right? And it was always there, and I couldn't sleep very well, and I couldn't focus on other things. And even when I went to visit my kids and spend time with them, you know, that didn't really let me be fully present with them. And then I felt guilt about it, and more
snowball effect, yeah.
And more anger against myself, and so at one point I decided to try Ibogaine again, right?
Because you had tried everything else.
Well, I've tried everything else before. I could have gone and done ayahuasca again, but instinctively that didn't call me. You know, I've also tried Cambo in the past, which helped me, but it wasn't calling me. But Ibogaine was calling me, and I spoke to more people that had done it, and how the visions and the insights showed them, revealed to them their past trauma that was keeping them locked, right? And no therapy, no therapist, no psychotherapy, no amount of work on themselves had been able to reveal. And then how, when they did the Ibogaine, boom, they saw it in 3D, color, and in detail, like a life review, like a near-death experience from a point of view of compassion, where whoever hurt you or whoever you hurt was forgiven. And that's where my idea of forgiving myself became
your intention. That was your one intention you had.
It started growing on me. I said, I need to forgive myself. And when I spoke to Tom, he said, you know, that's one of the things that if you have that intention as a strong intention, it's bound to happen.
And your coach here at Beond also helped?
Tyler Fink, an amazing guy. Loved him. And we went through it. I mean, he really wanted to zone in.
Before you came?
Before I came, like for like 2 months, I was preparing with regular sessions with Tom and with Tyler, and like trying, they were both wanted me to zone in on my intention. And, you know, they were offering me all these possible intentions.
You to have 10 or 5 intentions.
And I said, no, listen, that's the one thing that I want.
That's a big intention. If you forgive yourself, that'll change everything else, right?
Forgive myself and forgive everybody else.
Forgive everyone else as well. That's a huge intention. Some say that, like Course in Miracles says, that's the only reason we come to this planet, actually, is just to forgive ourselves and others. You do that, and then, you know, that's everything, really.
And everything falls into place.
Everything falls into place. So what happened by the time you did the Ibogaine? I can't...
So I came here, and I was so hopeful and so looking forward to my visions. And you know, I spoke to another healer. And I say another healer because I consider myself a doctor and a healer. And it's not, they don't always go together, but there was a healer that I admire that came to Beond, Charlie Goldsmith, and he had amazing visions. And I communicated with him, even though I don't know him personally, but I messaged him after he came here, and he told me that it was incredible. And so I was so illusioned about the whole thing. And then
People sometimes have, expectations around these visions, and it doesn't always happen for everybody.
Yeah. And I was also afraid because I did have open heart surgery a few years back. I told you I had a very severe car accident that tore one of my aortic valve leaflets. And then after a few years of monitoring the dilation of my heart, we decided at a certain point we replaced the aortic valve in my heart with an open heart surgery. So I was afraid because
Physical risk of the
cardiac risk, right?
And I think our doctors help mitigate that before you come. And you had a bunch of EKGs when you arrived. I'm sure you had them before you came as well.
Echocardiogram, EKG. I spoke to my mentor, which is my first teacher of cardiology in New York, Dr. Ronnie Shimoni, who's an incredible cardiologist.
Dr. Ron Shimoni.
Yeah, amazing cardiologist. In my opinion, one of the best in the world. Anyways, he kind of helped me assess the risk. He was a little afraid too. But my whole Ibogaine session was completely uneventful, and but I didn't have any visions. I didn't have any insights. I actually got bored. At the beginning, I was getting into the music and the breathing and just waiting for.
And nothing happened.
But nothing happened.
Which is rare, but sometimes does happen.
Nothing happened. So I was like, oh my God.
It's very disappointing.
Here we go again. Second time. It wasn't that the medicine was old the last time. It's just that I don't respond.
It's the way your physiology is.
So I finish my session. I go to my room, disappointed, heartbroken in a way, sad about it. And of course I go and I start studying the possible reasons why. And then, and I wasn't 100% clear on it until I spoke to Eduardo, your cardiologist, who is also an amazing
Dr. Eduardo,
amazing knowledge on Ibogaine.
He has a background with studying
and
both
chemistry and
taking Ibogaine.
So it turns out that I thought I was lacking an enzyme that converts Ibogaine into noribogaine, which happens in 5% of the population, right? And this is an enzyme called CYPD26.
Right, it's a gene you can test for, but it's very expensive and obscure.
Well, I actually happen to have my genetic code. A friend of mine in Argentina, Dr. Jorge Dotto, who's an amazing geneticist, he has all my coding. So I called him immediately. I said, "Can you check for my CYPD26?" Yeah, no problem. He hasn't called me yet. He's a busy guy, but he's checking on it, right? So I'm like trying to find an explanation. It turns out that the most likely explanation is that I'm just a fast metabolizer. It's not that I lack the enzyme, it's that I probably have too much of it. So what happens is that when you take the Ibogaine is absorbed and the level of Ibogaine increases in your blood, and the Ibogaine is the one that binds to the receptors that give you the explosion of serotonin associated with the visions and the insights. Then it's converted into noribogaine, and when the noribogaine starts accumulating in the blood, that's when the neuroplasticity effects happen. It's the noribogaine is responsible for that, not the Ibogaine.
So people put sometimes too much importance on the visions, which is important, of course, for having a psychospiritual transformation and reviewing past traumas and having insights, but the actual noribogaine conversion is probably key for the gut-brain connection.
Well, everybody that comes here and whatever is being talked about is how the Ibogaine, but it is actually the noribogaine, resets your brain, disconnects old synapses that were like burned in and become like a habit of the mind. That's how negative thoughts become a loop. And negative feelings, because thoughts elicit feelings, all these neuronal old connections that happen during trauma and maybe even from childhood, those get unlocked, right?
Yeah.
And that's what noribogaine does.
And that takes a few days.
And that takes up to months.
Well, it lasts for months, but it might take a couple of days to actually start working from the time you ingest the Ibogaine, but then lasts 3 months after with the neuroplasticity.
From my conversations with your staff, because they have seen people that some people even they told me had fallen asleep during their session, And they were really disappointed. And then they called 3 months later and they're like, oh my God, my life has completely changed, right?
So what happened for you? When did you start to notice? You took the Ibogaine and then you did a booster dose a couple days later.
After the first session, my flood session.
Disappointed, you thought it wouldn't work, you're researching.
My negative thoughts and feelings got even worse because I'm helpless, right? Nothing can help me, right? And so I kind of wanted to leave. And so I went and I told Tom and I told your docs and some of your coaches, and I said, nah, take it easy. Even if nothing happens, don't escape.
Well, they've seen this before. They know that we should wait.
And they recommended that I do my booster dose.
Okay, good.
Right? My supplemental dose. So I said, okay, fine. So I did my supplemental dose and then nothing happened again in terms of visions or insights. And then I was really down and I went to my room and I was pouting and then a dinner time came and I just left the room. And by the time I was eating and talking to the other guests, suddenly they started saying to me, oh my God, you look different. You're smiling now. I haven't seen you smiling. And I had been here for like 5-6 days already. And I said, really? And suddenly I kind of put my attention on myself and I noticed that
what you've been feeling for years, you felt for years, you said something pushing on your shoulder.
For 3 years, this pain, this
that you linked to depression, your own depression, was this pain in your shoulder. And it had dissipated or what? I
didn't feel it anymore.
Wow.
Like, because after speaking to your cardiologist and to some of your coaches, they said, listen, it will, you will see it in the next few weeks, up to 2 months. And sometimes just notice that you're clearer on something that you were not clear. And it seems like out of the blue. Nobody told me that it could be that fast.
And so in that moment, when you're thinking about your anger and towards, people in your life or your resentments towards yourself, what happened or what did that feel like? So after the Ibogaine?
So the emotion of, or the state of pain and gloom or doom or whatever you want to call it had kind of dissolved, to maybe not completely gone, but dramatically or noticeably less, right? And also I felt like an euphoria. I think I had to be like manic and I started getting excited I started thinking about the future that I hadn't been thinking for a while.
Like happier in general about life, more excited about life?
Yeah, I'm even reserved to call it happier, but yeah, started thinking about the future and
wow.
And then things like that, right? Then that night I couldn't sleep at all, which now I know is a common occurrence with people that do Ibogaine.
Right, Ibogaine's a stimulant.
Yeah.
It takes a couple days to sleep.
And but the next day was like, again, and
you felt the clarity, so you're starting to understand maybe this is going to last. Wow.
And I started calling some friends and, I video chatted with a couple of friends and they were like, oh, you look different and you have some color in your face. You were
I noticed the difference in you. You have way more clarity in your eyes and more joy than when you first came.
Yes, absolutely.
That's incredible.
Absolutely. And I'm just and last night I couldn't sleep again. And I noticed that the lack of sleep started kind of not bringing this back, but the idea that this was going to come back. So, finally I slept last night and again today I feel clearer and lighter, right? And now I know that I have to establish new habits and new neuronal connections so that this can turn into a long-lasting.
Yes, just like your past client who didn't do the work afterwards, this is your critical period where the neuroplasticity is there for you to create new habits. And what new habits are those going to be for you?
Well, I've been dealing with back pain since my car accident. I've been looking for a solution for that. I recently got stem cells injected, but I haven't been exercising, so I'm going to make an effort to find. I did find a form of physical therapy that I think is helping, and I'm going to be dedicated to that and walking and exercising.
You mentioned when you were in depression, I think this is such a great point, how people, you don't really want to do anything to get better. Do you feel like you want to make, I think that's what's so interesting about Ibogaine. People describe that they want to make these changes now, whereas before you didn't have the energy.
Not only I want to make these changes, I also want to now, again, as always, when I find something that helps me, I want to make it known.
There's millions and millions of people suffering from depression, anxiety.
Millions.
So, well, that's a beautiful intention, and I think there's a lot we could do combining the body, what you know about the gut and the brain, and clean, your programs and your books. How do you see that fitting together with Ibogaine and maybe, these retreats we might do in the future with you here? Talk about.
So now I'm coming to it because you've touched
started with it.
And a few times during our conversation you bring the gut, and whoever is listening may not really completely understand, because what happens is this: when you read about it, when you hear Joe Rogan talking to the people that he invites to talk about Ibogaine, when you listen to Terence McKenna, when you all the people that have been talking about it for years, and mostly now, which is like a hot topic, they talk about the neuroplasticity. They talk about how it resets your brain. But most people, or if not everybody, at least everybody in your staff, everybody that I spoke to here, in terms of the guests that are here right now and are coming and going, when they talk about neuroplasticity and how it resets your brain, everybody's thinking
about the brain in their head
and in the skull, right? And this brain, right? But there's a bigger brain in the gut. 80-90% of the serotonin in your body is actually produced here, as well as the other neurotransmitters, acetylcholine, dopamine, gabapentin, all the GABA, all the neurotransmitters are produced on neurons, and there's more neurons here than here, right? So
there's more in your stomach than there.
Way more neurons in your intestines.
So they call the stomach the second brain. It might be the first.
It's not the stomach. The stomach is only a little part of it, right? It's your intestines.
Okay.
Right? It's from here to your anus, the whole intestine.
From your mouth to your anus.
Yes.
Wow. And I think most people think of it as their stomach because that's how it's described.
No. In fact, in the small intestines, in the large intestine, there's more nerves than anywhere else, and they all actually leave the gut and turn into the solar plexus.
So could we say that your brain is actually led by your gut from your mouth, or how do they work together?
So the brain is the whole of the nervous system. In fact, depending on who you study and what philosophy or religion or science you study, brain and mind is a little difficult to distinguish, right? But there are not only two brains. There's not only one brain here and one brain here.
For people that are listening, you're pointing to your head, your brain, and
there's not only one brain in your skull and one brain within and around your gut. There's also a brain within your heart. We think of it as the conduction system. The heart beats by electrical impulses. Those electrical impulses are traveling through neurons. So there is a whole nervous system. There's a whole brain in your heart. And from my understanding, from all the, I lived in a monastery in India. I've talked to a lot of spiritual people. And from my understanding is that the different brains govern different things. The brain in your skull governs reasoning, imagination, the visual center, the auditory center, the language center. This is all things that are governed by the electrical system or brain in your skull. Then there is the brain in your gut, and that governs your intuition. And that's why in our language, it's actually ingrained. Talk about gut feelings. You talk about butterflies in your stomach.
What people might be disconnected from if they're on antidepressants.
When you're afraid, you get diarrhea. You're going to have an exam. Your stomach is your guts are making noises, right?
Or when your kid's in trouble, I can feel at school one time, I could feel that there was
That's your intuition,
right?
And that is governed by the brain in your gut.
Wow.
And then you have wisdom and willpower, which is governed by the brain in your heart, right? So all three brains are responding to ibogaine and noribogaine. So this is the really interesting connection between ibogaine, more widely mental health, and your gut, right? Because the brain in your gut is actually bigger than the brain in your skull.
Right. If you can reset your gut, you can reset depression, anxiety, all kinds of mental health.
I've helped so many people with depression by helping them repair their gut. And that's why I became
your program.
That's why I became an expert on, and that's why my program is directed to optimize and improve the detoxification function, which is one of the big problems that we have in our modern world today. There's a huge increase in exposure to chemicals, to toxic chemicals,
pesticides
in the air we breathe, the water we drink and shower with, the medications we consume, only 10% of which are the active ingredients. All of the rest is excipients, coloring agents, all kinds of things, right? The cosmetics we apply on our skin that end up in our bloodstream that have a lot of toxic chemicals. Architecture is responsible for 60% of the toxicity in our planet. From the glues that you stick your wood floors or your carpets with, the paints that we use, the cleaning products that we use to clean our homes, all kinds of chemicals are in our environment because of architecture and the cleaning products that we use. Our mattresses are off-gassing fire retardants, which by law you have to have them in certain countries, in certain states. So anyways, but mostly in the food-like products that we consume as food. And we don't eat real foods anymore. We eat edible stuff.
So that's why your program preaches, cutting out seed oils, sugar,
anything processed. So when I help people with their gut and detoxification, they have to only eat real foods. Nothing made in a factory. And what happens today is, if you think about it, you go to a supermarket and you take a bird's eye view, and what is 90% of the real estate in the supermarket consist of? Aisles with shelves,
manufactured
and
food.
when you look at it, is boxes, cans, tubes, bags, and these are things that are made in factories.
High fructose, yeah, of course.
Not only high fructose, these things have a shelf life. They can last for a year or 2 years, right? Why is something edible not being eaten by bugs? Because they have antibiotics in them. We call them preservatives, but they're actually antibiotics. So when you consume these things, and remember, the longer the shelf life, the shorter your life, because the more of these chemicals that are present, right? And coloring agents, smelling agents,
Parkinson's, Alzheimer's, all these diseases have
skyrocketed. So you eat these things, they kill the bacteria in your gut.
Depression, anxiety, all-time high, yeah.
They break the wall of your gut. Mm-hmm. You get leaky gut or hyperpermeability. The immune system on the other side of the wall starts receiving good bacteria, bad bacteria, undigested food, and inflammation is turned on. The immune system goes crazy. Sometimes it starts attacking yourself in the autoimmune diseases. But we know now that chronic inflammation is behind all the chronic diseases of the modern world, which are pandemic levels at this time. So
right, Peter Attia does a good job talking about inflammation, and
I'm sure he's very eloquent and very smart. But
inflammation is the root cause of disease, essentially.
Behind any chronic disease, you go 5, 10, 15 years, and you will see that the inflammatory system has been turned on, right? But inflammation is actually not a problem. I mean, at the levels that we are seeing it today, yes. But inflammation is a survival and an adaptation mechanism, very necessary for life. The problem is when inflammation is turned on systemically and chronically, right? And where does that happen? In the gut. Why? Because 70% of your immune system is there. as long as the gut is broken, the immune system is reacting, inflammation is turned on, and when an adaptation and survival mechanism is turned on for too long, that's when diseases start showing up,
That makes sense.
There are no diseases. The body doesn't make any mistakes. What we see and perceive as diseases are adaptation and survival mechanisms that have been turned on for too long.
Oh, I see. So your theory, coming back, everyone's focusing on neuroplasticity and Ibogaine, which is important.
Hugely important. It's what is saving people's lives. If it was only the visions and the insights, you forget about those in a few days. Maybe not, depending on But a lot of people that I've spoken to, they really enjoy them, but some of them don't understand what they mean, and it'll take them years to really figure it out, right? Some of them think they're beautiful, but
what is your
the really important aspect of Ibogaine, in my opinion, today, is the neuroplasticity and the reset of the brain. Which brain?
The whole brain. Now I understand from talking to you, the brain runs from the actual brain all the way to the anus. This is a whole system. And you believe that it resets that.
It resets neurons.
Resets neurons.
And neurons are where? In your skull, around your heart, and within your gut. And they're everywhere, right? Because there's neurons in my finger. That's how I'm able to move it, right? So it resets all your nerves, all your neurons.
If let's say a client wants to come to Beond and wants to do, sometimes I do them myself, a poop test, or GI mapping. I look for my own improvement over time. I do it every 6 months. What time stamps would you tell them to do? Like one before they came and one how many months after they came? It would be very interesting to
Before I answer that, I want to clarify that the microbiome, the zoo in your gut, is only one aspect of what goes wrong in the gut. Not more important, but as important is the integrity of the wall. Just imagine that the wall of your gut is what separates the inside of your body and the outside of your body. Within the tube, all the food that's going down is actually outside of your body until it crosses the wall and goes into your bloodstream, right? Now, the wall has to be intact, meaning compare it to a brick wall. That's very much what the intestinal wall is, a one layer of cells that are like bricks. And between the bricks, you have cement, right? That cement makes the wall hermetic, makes the wall impermeable. So the only things that could go through are the things that the cells actually grab intentionally and intelligently and bring inside the body. That's called absorption, right? And what do the cells come programmed by nature to grab and take in and launch into the circulation? Is everything that's already digested. So not proteins, amino acids, not big sugars, glucose, and the simple sugar
on the shelf can't be digested.
Well, no, that's a different thing. But and not big fats, but fatty acids and esters. So those are the things. Why? Because they are neutral to the immune system. The immune system doesn't react to them. Now, when you lose the cement between the cells, right? That leaves a separation between the cells. It's as if you take the cement of a brick wall, and you can see between the bricks. You can see on the other side of the wall. So that's called hyperpermeability or leaky gut. So what happens is good bacteria, bad bacteria, other microorganisms, because we talk about the bacteria in the gut, but we also have fungus, we also have parasites, we also have viruses, we have all kinds of, we have a big zoo in the gut, right? All these things start passing by through the leaky gut, and the immune system on the other side starts reacting to them and turns on inflammation. Not only that, undigested food, big proteins start going through, and the body doesn't recognize these big proteins as foreign, and so it turns a defense mechanism against them, right? And so that's how inflammation gets perpetuated and intensified. And just so you know, if you iron the wall of the gut, which is actually folded and microfolded just to increase the surface, if you iron it out, you get a surface of 1.5 tennis courts.
Wow.
So imagine 1.5 tennis courts full of nervous system, full of immune system cells, just turned on into defending the body, which is inflammation. The climate of the defense system is inflammation. The defense system works better with inflammation, right? That's why it turns it on. In this huge surface, it becomes systemic. It's kind of like your whole body. And that is what makes people sick.
Thank you for that explanation. Very thorough and detailed. Super helpful. I'm curious. Oh, okay. So let me ask you that question again. So if a client wanted to...
So the two things that get broken in a broken gut are the microbiome and the intestinal wall, right? Now, is there a value of doing those stool tests to determine what probably yes, if...
I think it would be interesting to see the change.
Yeah, but more interesting to see the change in a test. I look at the change in people, right? How they feel, how their digestion goes, how their chronic diseases start reversing and
How their mental
fading away. Because the
health
truth
has improved. Yeah.
The truth is, nobody really fully understands the microbiome right now as to look at one of these tests and be able to say, oh, this and this, we're still learning about it. And even though it could be useful, especially if you have certain parasites or really well-known bad bacteria like enterococcus or, that kind of thing,
You might not see the change.
you might see the change, you might not understand it, you might not see the change. I am not that keen on getting stool tests before and after. I think it may have some value, but you really have to find the people that know how to interpret it, and I think we're right at the beginning of that understanding.
We're very early. Okay, moving towards, tell me about, so Ibogaine as a tool for personal growth, longevity. We see a lot of people here at Beond who come for dependencies. We see a lot of people who come for our mood and trauma program, which is anxiety, depression. But you've probably witnessed people on site who are being more proactive related to their mental health, personal growth. They're using it more for creativity. Tell me a little bit about your opinion around that.
Well, I myself have used psychedelics for my own personal growth, and I've always had really good experiences. Not only that, I've seen a lot of people do that as well, together with me, or I've heard about it, or they told me about it. I've even went and witnessed groups doing things like ayahuasca, not participated, but just witnessing them. So a lot of the people that were doing it were not doing it to solve a problem, but to go to the next level. Let's call it like that, right? I think it's really interesting and really useful, and probably growing in popularity about this time, right? It has been popular for a long time, but now it's being more accepted, as it were. So yeah, I think it's great.
Yeah, we're seeing more and more people coming just for that.
Yeah.
What do I want to do next with my
right now, from this past week and something that I've been here, I've mostly seen here people that come to deal with problems, addictions, depression, right? I hear at Beond, veterans whose lives were returned to them, as it were, because what was happening to me was baby stuff compared to some of these people.
Yeah, there's some people
with
that
PTSD, and you could see the darkness in their aura when they come in, and suddenly they leave, and when people leave here, they give a speech, right? And I'm just blown away by some of these speeches that they give.
Yeah,
so even if I came here and did nothing for myself, just seeing that would have been an amazing experience.
Yeah, what is that like for you taking you out of the patient role since you were the patient, just observing that as a doctor related to the community, the level of care, the staff? What is your...
Listen, I started my career first in medical school, then training in some of the best hospitals in New York, NYU Downtown Hospital, Lenox Hill Hospital.
You're a cardiologist.
As a cardiologist, I run intensive care units for a long time. Then I worked in Palm Springs in 4 hospitals. And when I started discovering concepts and practices of detoxification and gut repair, and I started seeing miracles, I was wondering, how come I didn't learn this in medical school? Because, my desire, my drive is to help. I don't care how. I don't need it to be with a stethoscope and an intensive care unit in the background, I wanted to help. And I was able to help people way, way more effectively with the concepts and practices of functional medicine. Specifically detoxification and gut repair, which is what I became really interested in and what I believe are the 2 biggest problems that humans are dealing with today. So I was like, and it was as if I was given a magic wand and I could just help people like that. Well, this is another magic wand. So for me, it's just interesting and a joy because what I like, where my cocaine is seeing the transformation in others. When I witness somebody going from this to this, it's better for me than any movie, than any concert, than than any drug.
I agree.
I'm just built that way.
For me, it's ineffable and it's alchemy, and I am in awe. It's something that science can't explain. It's what I love, why I love working here, to witness these. And you don't know how it's going to happen or when, even looking at your journey here. But to know that it will happen and not exactly know how, to me, that is that's God. It's mystery. I don't know what it is. It's something bigger than the human mind, though.
Yeah.
I couldn't agree more.
Yeah, even though you take the Ibogaine in a pill, right? We need to remember that this is a plant. This is natural. This is not made in a laboratory. This is not invented by man, manufactured like many of the medications, like Lexapro,
Yeah, even though it comes from Iboga, it's an alkaloid that's extracted, but it's still from nature as the alkaloid.
There's nothing added to it from a laboratory.
Right.
Yeah, they separate the
other alkaloids, but it's still pure, the alkaloid.
Yeah.
So that's important. And then how important is community to you? Just giving Ibogaine, in a safe way is one thing, but I think the power of community, and I don't know if you tried any of the healing modalities we have here that are every hour we have these specially crafted activities to help people prepare better and integrate their experience more deeply, the therapeutic coaching workshops, the daily massage, the sound healing Watsu, floating on these pads in the pool.
It all helps. Listen, when I run my retreats, right, I put people on a gut repair program, and I really focus on that. The food, the supplements, the environment, but I also bring other healers. I bring people that do family constellations. I bring massage therapists that have a gift. I bring meditation teachers. I bring yoga teachers, right? And the baseline is that the gut repair sometimes in itself gives the transformation, but sometimes in itself it doesn't. And for some people
that's needed.
For some people, the breakthrough is through family constellations, which I found is hugely influential, is hugely beneficial on people, right? And I've been making it point to bring a good family constellator to everyone on my and I think you should have one here.
Well, we talked about it yesterday. When we do our clean Beond retreats, we'll bring a family constellation therapist.
Yeah, and I have a couple that are mind blowing. But yeah, maybe the gut repair created the conditions and prepared that person, and then the family constellator crack the code or the veil or whatever you want to call it, and the breakthrough happens, right?
And then the Ibogaine.
Yeah, or maybe it's a yoga class, or maybe it's a meditation session, or maybe, so you have amazing coaches here. You have all these therapies, the gratitude circle in the morning. Gratitude itself is a healing modality if practiced, right?
It prepares the mind and helps you.
In itself, producing endorphins and changing your chemistry.
Exactly. It sets you up for the day while the Ibogaine's working and the clean food is happening and the yoga. And yeah, thank you for saying that. You mentioned you're working on a next book. Now that you have all this energy, the depression's lifted.
I've actually been writing it for a couple of years now.
It'll be interesting to see. I think you'll finish it much faster now with the Ibogaine neuroplasticity. But yeah, tell us about the book.
I've enlisted the help of my therapist and really good friend ChatGPT. So the way I've been doing it is I've been just dictating or typing stories, because that's how I write my books. I tell stories of how I find things and how things work in personal stories or patients of mine that I've witnessed and accompanied and taken through. So I've been doing that. The book is about the mind. The working title is Clean Mind. But yeah, psychedelics have a big part of it, right?
Yeah, cleaning your mind from past trauma, the heaviness that weighs people down, the memories, very important. Well, that's interesting. I look forward to reading that book. So you've been at the forefront of functional medicine and detox for decades now. You're a leader in the field. Where do
I know gut, the importance of the gut and all this, it's been talked about for the last 3-4 years, right? I wrote my book on the gut in 2011.
Yeah,
2010.
You've been ahead. You really helped popularize these ideas and have helped thousands and thousands, probably more, heal. Where do you see this whole space headed, related to gut health, psychedelics, and longevity? Like 5 to 10 years from now, where do you think we'll be?
Well, one of the things that I'm excited now is being able to collaborate with you guys. And I strongly believe, I actually know that when adding the concepts and practices of gut repair to Ibogaine treatments before, during, and after, it's going to just enhance not only the results during the sessions, but the longevity of the results, right?
Like if people start the clean program before they come, continue it after.
Like preparing themselves, we put them on a certain diet that is consistent with the clean gut repair program, right? And then during, the food here is actually incredible, but there are few things that we can change that will allow the gut repair to be ongoing while they're here. And it's only a very
can you give us examples? What are those?
Like for example, we take away sugar, like the orange juice that you have, which is actually not fresh, it's boxed, but the orange itself.
Fresh orange juice?
No, not even orange juice. Orange is out.
No orange juice ever, you're saying?
No oranges, no coffee, right? No sugar, no.
You were saying yesterday, no bubbly water, no LaCroix.
No LaCroix, well, LaCroix especially.
I consider myself someone who's very clean, eating super healthy. I didn't even know that, so thank you for that tip.
No gluten, no dairy, right? So, but you don't have too much of that.
Yeah, we have very clean food in general.
Very clean.
And locally grown and everything.
Yeah. So that aspect is just a small modification here, but also adding a few supplements, like L-glutamine and probiotics, and that can really start enhancing before, during, especially after. Because I was talking to all your guests here. They're leaving here and they want to do the work to establish new habits, and some of them are going to meditate and they're going to take on exercise again and blah blah. But nobody's talking about food. Nobody even knows about how the gut affects them, and everybody is walking around with some level of gut dysfunction.
So this will help educate people through this program while they're here.
Then you give them instructions for when they leave, and that is going to really, really affect the longevity of the results that they get here.
So in 5 to 10 years, do you see more centers? Like you mentioned to me that you worked with We Care for years in California. That's an incredible. I like to, we like to say that Beond is essentially a private hospital couched in a resort-like setting with these, elements like a spa, like We Care, which is a world-class facility in California for clean living and many different alternative modalities that we offer here as well. Do you see more of these centers popping up, or how do you think we'll be living in villages around the world like you grew up in Uruguay, or going back to?
They are popping up already, right? But what I observe, and I've been to many, and I scout them, I go to them, I see them. I worked at We Care for many years, helping, seeing people and helping them integrate whatever happens at We Care, which is not very clear. At We Care, people feel better and stuff, but nobody really is educated fully, or because it's not even understood by the people at We Care. The Susana, which is the founder, she's not a doctor. She knows a bunch of things. So she made this program, but she doesn't fully understand. She couldn't explain to me what was happening, because that's where I was first exposed to the concepts and practices of detoxification. But she didn't fully explain it to me. She explained to me in more hippie language, right? And it was up to me to find the medical explanation.
The science, yeah.
The science. And I found the science when I discovered functional medicine, right? And then, whoa, everything fell into place. So people go to We Care to lose weight and to feel better. It's not as much a hospital as this is a hospital, right? So I think that there's room for improvement for a place like We Care. And I see that they're popping up everywhere. I also know people that are big in the business of hospitality and how they are looking to but most people have no clue of what they're doing. They make a big menu and they bring whatever is fashionable now, and this and that, and sound healing and this and that, but it's not integrated around anything. It's just,
What does full integration look like?
Well, what I see when I see places that are really successful in terms of the results they get is because the backbone is somebody that's a master in something. Like, for example, at We Care, Susana, the owner, she's a master. But why is she a master? Because she was very sick, and they wanted to cut half of her intestines. She was recently divorced, had 5 kids that she had to. So she went into crisis, and she didn't want to get surgery. So she saw a chiropractor that told him something, and saw a different one that told her something, and she healed herself. And then her friends started coming to her, and she had this little house in where We Care is now. It was actually her house, a very cheap part of across the highway from Palm Springs, right? And then she made a room for more friends and another room, and it started growing organically, right? So why is it so effective? Because there's a master behind it. And yeah, of course, they have meditation teachers and yoga teachers, but it all runs on the backbone, on the the spinal cord, which is her program.
So this is around the spinal cord. So you're saying specificity in these programs is,
like, for example, when I see in my retreats, they run around gut repair, instructed by somebody that really understands about it. Not only because I healed myself with it, but I studied it from a medical point of view through functional medicine, and from every other point of view, because I learned everything that Susana had to say about her method, and there's a guy in Argentina that's incredible that does something similar, and all these programs are different, but there's a master behind them, right? And when I see centers that have somebody that really understands what they're doing, not just put a menu of therapies together, then it really works. It's like Beond. Beond runs on the backbone of Ibogaine, right? And then everything else, the sound therapy, all that alone wouldn't have the effect that it does because people are doing the Ibogaine. Yeah, it helps and it supports and it expands, but that's why I think you're so effective and successful.
Got it. Makes sense.
And coming from somebody like you, whose life was saved by this therapy.
Yeah.
That does it for the right reason, with the right knowledge. I see you're very curious. You contacted Lotzov's wife, which is the German guy that discovered Ibogaine to begin with for the West, right? And I mean, you talk to people, and so that is what it takes to have a place that can become unique in the world.
And last question. So there's a lot of people that are curious about Ibogaine. They may be on the fence. Some of them are afraid because of the cardiac, or some people are afraid of the, psychological journey. They've heard it's very arduous. It stops people from coming. What would you say to people who are uncertain about doing Ibogaine and coming,
Well, the first thing I say is the some level of fear, I think, is healthy. Right? Because there are risks, and there are people that go and do it, in different places, and there have been a few deaths, right? So you have to be careful. But then I would also tell them that like, for example, at Beond, it is safer than anywhere else that I've seen, because you have incredible experts. You have people that are measuring the timing, the risk of Ibogaine is Ibogaine itself prolongs the QT interval, right? When the heart beats, you have a P wave, which is a contraction of the atrium, and then you have the QRS, which is the contraction of the ventricle, and then you have the T wave, which is the recovery of the ventricle electrically, right? So it's P, QRS, T. The QT time, if it becomes too long, then and an impulse comes before the recovery, it can throw you into something called torsades de pointe, which is basically an arrhythmia of the ventricle that can end up in ventricular fibrillation, which is incompatible with life, right? So then you have to shock yourself out. Well, here at Beond, you have a nurse and a cardiologist and an intensive care unit doctor looking at your electrocardiogram throughout the whole time that you're sitting or laying down with the medicine. So and connected to a heart monitor and with an intravenous line in case that something happens. So it's as if you were in an intensive care unit, right? So there is no safer way of doing it, right? That's what I would tell them. That yeah, a little bit of a fear is healthy, and also there is a screening phase before you are accepted to come here. Your doctors will find out if you are on medication. For example, I had open heart surgery. After the open heart surgery, I had to go on beta blockers. Beta blockers is a drug that slows down the heart. And that's the purpose of it, to slow down the heart, because they wanted to give my heart less intensity of work to do, so that the aortic valve that was put in me has a better chance to heal. So for a few years, I'm going to be on it, right? But when I came here, we stopped it. And your doctors changed the medication to one that does not slow down the time, but still allows the reduction of the effort that the heart has to do to beat, right? But some people that cannot stop their medication, maybe they're contraindicated to do so. So you will stop the risky ones even before they come here, right?
We do, yeah.
Yeah,
we see that. So yeah, we use a lot of safety protocols, and we, are very discerning. Our medical team is very discerning. That's very important.
Yeah, but listen, this is how I think about it. If you are depressed and suicidal, maybe it's better to die taking Ibogaine, which is a very rare occurrence anyways, and even less at Beond. But even if I had to go and take Ibogaine in the forest, without monitoring, maybe the risk is better than just living in deep depression, thinking about how you're going to kill yourself.
Right, risk-reward ratio. Yeah, well, I'm just so grateful that you're here, you're living, you didn't do those things and you're able to share your story and there's life in your eyes again. So thank you. I can't wait to see what you do, the next few months, the next year. I'm looking forward to working with you more and so grateful that you came and you shared your experience so vulnerably coming from a doctor. It's really beautiful to hear you open up and, you'll go forth and I'm sure.
Thank you, and thank to everybody here, because they made it so human and so you feel cared for even before coming here, which I think is a huge benefit aspect of why this place is so successful. And when I talk about successful, I'm not talking about the money it makes or whatever, which I have no idea about. I'm talking about the faces of the people that I've seen. I don't know, I've seen maybe 30 people come in and out while I was here, and I've seen transformations that I was like blown away. That's what I refer to when I talk about success.
Human connection, so important and so missing, in most of the world today. So yeah, giving people that sense of community back. Speaking of human connection, if people want to get in touch with you, read your books, what's your website or your social media?
My Instagram is Dr. Alejandro Junger, Dr. Alejandro Junger. My company, in which we sell these kits and supplements for the gut repair program, which makes it easier. If you read my books, you can do the program without any supplements, without buying anything, just with foods. But a lot of people don't have the time, commitment, and knowledge. So I made it easy, creating these kits with supplements and shakes and things and it's super successful. That's cleanprogram.com. My books are Clean Gut, Clean Eats, and Clean 7.
And soon to be Clean Mind.
And soon to be Clean Mind.
Well, thank you very much. It's been a pleasure to have you on.
Thank you.